Hi everyone, welcome back to the kitchen. Today we've got a total pantry power recipe for you. This is gonna be a loaf of sandwich bread that is made with no yeast. I know, I couldn't believe it either. It has a great crumb, it's got a great texture, and it's super easy to make. And for those of you who might be a little gun shy making yeast bread, this might be a perfect place to start. So let's go see how this all comes together. Today we're doing it pantry style, and we are going to make a no yeast sandwich bread that is super easy to make. You might think it's like Irish soda bread, but it's not. It's got a different consistency, it holds up a little better, and you're going to be able to use this in place of a yeasted sandwich bread like that you would buy at the store or that you would make homemade. And we are going to be using my mixer today, but you could easily do this by hand. It's a very sticky dough. So 4 cups of all-purpose flour, 2.5 cups of milk that I have warmed a bit, 3 tablespoons of baking powder. Yes, 3 tablespoons of baking powder. That's where we're going to get our leavening, how the bread is going to rise and be beautiful and have a nice crumb. 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, a tablespoon of kosher salt. If you're using a fine table salt, like a fine Himalayan pink salt, or like an iodized salt out of the carton, you're going to use a teaspoon. I'll put that note in the printable recipe. 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. You can use whatever you have here, whether it's sunflower, avocado, olive oil, it's up to you. And that's all that goes in this. I have prepared a standard size loaf pan. This is a 9x5 loaf pan. I sprayed it. I've lined it with parchment so it hangs over the side so it's easier to get out when we take it out of the oven. And I've also sprayed the parchment. I have preheated my oven to 375 degrees. And now we're gonna get ready and we're gonna mix this all up. It's so easy you weren't gonna believe it. All right, so now we're gonna mix this up. You guys, this is really just a dump and go. We're gonna put all of our dry ingredients together. So our flour's already in the bowl. There goes our salt, our baking powder. Now remember, it's baking powder, not baking soda, and our sugar. And we're just gonna mix this. That's all. You just wanna get that nice and mixed up. So then we're gonna pour in our milk and our oil. And I think the recipe, it says to mix the milk and the oil together, but you know, it doesn't matter. Just get them in the bowl and it's all gonna be good. I do like to give this a little bit of a pulse as we start it because it's gonna fling out of the bowl. Then we're just gonna get it going and we're gonna let it beat for just a couple of minutes.
Really sticky, isn't it?
It is very sticky dough, yes. Now when it looks nice and smooth, that's when you can turn it off and you know it's well blended. Now this is a batter bread, so do not fear. We are not making a kneadable dough. So when you see that this batter is very loose and sticky, that is exactly how it's supposed to be. This is just a really great option if, number one, maybe been intimidated by starting out with yeast bread. This is a great place to start. Or maybe you don't have any yeast in the pantry, or you've kept your yeast in the cabinet, which is a big no-no. You should always keep your yeast in the freezer, because it will literally keep forever. Now we're just gonna scrape this down and then I'm gonna bring the pan over and we're gonna get it in the pan. Okay, now we're just gonna scrape this into the pan. This makes 1 loaf and that's it. Like I said, we have our oven preheated at 375 degrees. We're gonna pop this in there for between 40 and 50 minutes and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna show you what it looks like. All right, our no yeast sandwich bread baked for approximately 50 minutes. I checked it at 20 and it was this color. And then I put a piece of aluminum foil on the top of it and I allowed it to bake for an additional 20 minutes, at which point I checked it with a skewer. You see my skewer hole right there. And it still had a little bit of batter left on it, so I put it back in the oven with the foil for another 10 minutes and now it's perfect. I'm gonna let this stay in the pan for about 10 minutes and then I'm going to remove it using these pieces of parchment paper that we put in here like this. Then we're gonna let this cool on the rack for an hour before we slice it. And then we'll come back and we'll show you what it looks like. Well, there you have it. Now, I did not let mine cool completely. It's always gonna slice better once it's completely cooled. Mine is still a little warm, but that's okay because I wanted you to see it. It slices beautifully. The top crust is nice and soft. It's not crusty at all. And it's with no addition of any more. I didn't brush butter on this or anything like I do with my regular yeast bread. This bread is beautiful. Look at this crumb. It's so pretty. And it's gonna toast up really nice. This piece is still pretty soft and pretty warm. I think if you didn't have yeast in your pantry, or if you were down to some limited supplies, or use up your yeast as quickly, and you had baking powder, this is going to be a really great option for you. So I knew I had to share it with you all. Do you want to taste this?
Of course.
It's warm, but it's not hot. What do you think? That's really good.
Good.
It's got a nice texture. Like I said, once it's cooled, like tomorrow, this is going to slice beautifully. You'll be able to use it for sandwiches or grilled cheese. You'll be able to use this for French toast or whatever it is you use bread for. This really does remind me a lot of an English muffin bread, if you're familiar with that. It's got a very mild flavor. It's not too salty. It's got just a tiny little bit of sweetness in the back. Slathered with some butter, this is going to be delicious. And it's going to be a quick and easy way to have bread next to your meal for dinner on any given night. It's going to help fill bellies. It's going to make sandwiches. It's going to do all the things regular bread does. So that's how you make no yeast sandwich bread. I know you're going to love it. Please give it a try. Let me know what you think. Until next time, I'll see ya.